As the 2024 presidential elections approach, two candidates stand out as frontrunners. However, a third party may cause a spoiler effect and overturn the election, and he is none other than John F. Kennedy's nephew and famed conspiracy theorist Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Commanding a growing following, RFK Jr. is a prominent propagandist of anti-vaccine conspiracy theories. Conspiracy theories have earned his family a reputation of being cursed, with family members dying young in improbable and awful ways. The most impactful death in the Kennedy family was former President John F. Kennedy in 1963. The highly contested details of the assassination spawned many conspiracy theories that have significantly shaped JFK's legacy, injecting doubt and controversy into public perceptions and contributing to a complex and contested historical narrative. John F. Kennedy, the 35th President of the United States, was a charismatic and controversial figure whose life and death have immortalized him as one of the most memorable Americans of all time. He was born in Massachusetts in 1917 as the second of 9 children in a prominent family. Kennedy went to Harvard before fighting in the Pacific Theater in World War II, injuring his back in a daring rescue at sea. When he was 29, Kennedy won a Massachusetts House seat by a landslide. He subsequently ran for the Senate and won by about 100,000 votes. Soon after this, JFK married Jacqueline Bouvier, a New York City socialite and photographer. By 1960, he had gained some popularity and became known outside of Massachusetts to a far greater extent. He used his bountiful charisma in the first televised presidential debates and conferences, and months later he won the 1960 presidential election, narrowly beating Richard M. Nixon. As president, Kennedy arrived in the midst of the Bay of Pigs crisis and took full responsibility for all errors in judgment during this historic crisis, resolving the situation and moving forward. He campaigned and led with a promise of vigor, hope, and optimism. After Soviet Yuri Gagarin became the first man in space, Kennedy boldly declared that the United States would send a man to the moon by 1970, the fruit of which would not be seen until 1969. In the Cuban Missile Crisis, he treaded carefully and calmly to keep the situation from escalating, against advice from the CIA. He then created the Peace Corps in 1961 to provide aid to developing countries. To improve the United States, he created domestic proposals, which he termed the New Frontier. These actions kept him well liked, but he wanted to secure the 1964 election. On November 21st, 1963, Kennedy traveled to Texas to resolve tension and try to win over its citizens for the 1964 presidential election. The morning of November 22nd, 1963, John F. Kennedy flew to Dallas to join Texas Governor John Connally before a speech. At 12:30 p.m., Lee Harvey Oswald shot Kennedy in Dealey Plaza. On Sunday, November 24th, Oswald was shot by Jack Ruby while being escorted by police. There was an immediate impact of JFK's death seen all over the world. Later, Kennedy's body was brought back to the District of Columbia, and 1,200 people from 90 countries attended the funeral. Johnson later put together a team to investigate JFK's death, known as the Warren Commission. The commission found that only Lee Harvey Oswald killed Kennedy. However, some people remained suspicious of these findings. The Oliver Stone film JFK popularized the conspiracy theory that the CIA killed Kennedy. This theory is based on several events that allegedly showed the CIA's resentment and hostility towards Kennedy. In 1976, the House created a committee to investigate the assassination of JFK. They concluded that Kennedy was probably killed as the result of a conspiracy, yet the government was not behind it. Despite this, many Americans still believe that JFK was assassinated by the CIA. This was one of the first modern conspiracy theories about the United States government, and many more have followed, making many Americans less trustful of their government. It has been decades since Kennedy's assassination, and over this course of time, JFK's presidency has been overshadowed by its brutal ending, awash in conspiracy theories, instead of being remembered as a historic time in America filled with optimism and promise. The greatest piece of media that has changed perception of John F. Kennedy may be the 1991 film JFK. This movie also opened up a new door into making fictitious media featuring the JFK's death. The same year, the 1992 Seinfeld episode The Boyfriend ridiculed both the movie and the assassination. Media like this has corroded JFK's legacy, spotlighting conspiracy theories at the expense of the totality of his presidency. The music video for singer Lana Del Rey's 2012 song National Anthem contains a reenactment of the Zapruder film, featuring the singer portraying Jacqueline Kennedy. This music video has been watched over 100 million times in 12 years. As the decades passed by, it is JFK's tragic assassination, often fictionalized or tainted with conspiracy theories, that is winning out as his legacy in popular culture, over and above his significant accomplishments. Now, 60 years after his death, many Americans will associate JFK first with his death and then with conspiracies. A year before his death, Kennedy told an audience at Yale that,
"For the great enemy of the truth is very often not the lie, deliberate, contrived, and dishonest, but the myth, persistent, persuasive, and unrealistic."
Perhaps the myth has become a more potent force than truth in shaping his legacy.